because I've never done an action movie before. So I've never had to fall over or fire a gun or sew myself up. So yeah, I mean, it was just an awful lot of firsts. Yeah, everything was unexpected. There wasn't one thing that I had to do on that film that wasn't unexpected. You know, a lot of the pain is real. Let's just put it that way. We have to make this work!
You know, any kind of film set in the Minnesota winter is going to evoke Fargo. That's obviously the big one. And I think there are maybe some similarities between your character Barb and Marge Gunderson in the sense that she's just quite a decent woman trying to do the right thing. And that's kind of her kind of superpower in a sense, is that she is just a decent, normal woman. Was that something that you quite enjoyed about playing this character?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to avoid Fargo. Fargo's a very different tone, I think, and Marge, you know, Frances's character in that is sort of, you know, it's taken it, I think, more into a sort of comedic realm than Barb actually. So for me, this ordinary woman who sees something going on and has to do something is just a very original form of hero. We don't see that normally. Normally, if someone unexpected turns out to be the hero, they've got special skills. Whereas Barb has the special skills of decency, you know, a very strong moral compass, an extremely in-depth knowledge of her environment and how to use it to help herself, and a kind of resilience that's born of having grown up and survived in that environment.
Yeah.
You know, she's a very quietly happy woman who's had a beautiful life with a husband she's loved very much, with very few material resources. But the inner resources are, you know, spectacularly deep.
And you mentioned that resilience of kind of being forged within those wintry conditions and of quite harsh conditions.
Yes.
Did you kind of get a taste of what that must be like? Well, I mean, filming, I understand it was in Finland rather than Minnesota, but kind of getting to know the landscape and the cold, did that give you a greater understanding?
Oh, absolutely.
Of how that character,
yeah. I went a month in advance to acclimatise to the cold. It was minus 29 when I arrived in Finland. And that's a cold that we don't get here, not even in Scotland when it's cold. We just don't get it, because this is a temperate climate. When you get to the proper north, we were 60 kilometres away from the Russian border, and quite far north in Finland. We were far away from everywhere in a place called Koli. And it absolutely informed every second of that performance, was informed by being outside in that cold. And remembering the fact that, you know, always, no matter, even if she's being shot at, she rescues her gloves. Because without your gloves, you will not survive.
Yeah.
You will not survive because your hands will stop working. You will not be able to. So those details, which we got from Minnesotans and from the Finns, because they're very closely linked, were really, really intensely part of creating her. Yeah.
Yeah. You also get quite a rare opportunity to craft a character alongside your own daughter as well, and Gaia is playing the younger version of the character. What kind of conversations did you have with her? Because she's obviously playing the character at a very different stage of her life, but they do kind of link quite well. So how do you kind of discuss how that informs the other, I guess?
We just talked about how she'd been brought up, what we think, what we thought her parenting had been like, you know, how she and Carl would have chosen to live their lives, what they would have had rows about, what they ate, you know, the games they played, the fun that they had. I think that the real connection as well is that because Gaia and I sound like each other and we look like each other, the humour inside Barb, even when she was there, even when she was young, a kind of, you know, ironic, but also her grit, the fact that she survives losing a child, you know, right to term, and there's so many of those connections. And I loved the way Brian Kirk, our wonderful director, connected them in these tiny little flashbacks that just salt and pepper the whole thing, make you understand where she's come from and why she's had such a wonderful life.
were you working on the accent together at the same time, you and Guy
Yes.
as well? Yeah. How was that? What was that process like?
Well, it was first of all with a wonderful voice coach called William Conacher while we were still here. But when we got to Finland, we had a community of Minnesotans that we would sit with for hours and just converse. And that worked much in a way. You know, once you've got the sounds, the only way of doing it's a bit like learning a language. The best way of doing it, yes, you can do the lessons and you can learn the grammar, but you have to be in the place speaking the language to really. And that's what we did. We just spent hours in Minnesota, as it were, on Zoom with these Minnesotans who gave us all their time, and that's why we got to where we got.
In terms of the action aspect of the film, obviously there are, you know, quite a lot of action scenes and quite a lot of kind of quite visceral, even just picking at wounds and all that kind of stuff. Were there kind of any unexpected challenges of that aspect of the film for you?
Yeah, everything was unexpected. There wasn't one thing that I had to do on that film that wasn't unexpected, because I've never done an action movie before. So I've never had to fall over or fire a gun or sew myself up. So yeah, I mean, it was just an awful lot of firsts. And I mean, the surgery bit, we only had one take because we only had one prosthetic. It's an independent film, don't forget. So we don't have much time. And if you fall over and hurt yourself, you've just got to get up and get on with it, because we're in bloody Finland and we haven't got any money and there's nowhere to go. Where are you going to go? There's no caravan to go into or some nice warm hotel, and you've got to get back to it. It's there we're the Russians are coming, you know. It's absolutely right there. It was very visceral and real, and I think that informed everything about it. So that, you know, a lot of the pain is real. Let's just put it that way.